Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co host, Trey Holiday. And if you guys can tell, clearly it looks like some new space. We're going to get into that today. And you guys know we have a great lineup for you. I'm going to throw it over, as I always do, to my guy, Big O, on the scene. What's up, Big O? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, and I got to tell you what, congratulations to our colleagues here at Converge. Day one here, and new studio space down here in Pioneer Square. We're really excited about it. Been working hard for it, and actually, maybe I can. Daryl, are you able to plug this in here? Am I able to give everybody a tour?
There we go.
Let's see if we can. There we go. So that's Bobby Steels over there, and the whip is Young O. That's Daryl. You guys have been hearing Carlos Imani. Eric Calligraphy, that's our guest today, Isaac Joy. And we come out here, you see it's pretty empty at the moment, so we're definitely gonna need your help and support in getting it all kitted out and everything. But it's a big moment, for us here. We always talked about having our own studio space and everything. And the one thing that I was talking about is I told these guys, I said, man, I need to make sure I get a landline phone put in here. They're like, a landline? I said, yeah, we need a landline phone and we need to be in the yellow pages. They're like, yellow pages, what's that? I said, well, you know what, as a kid, I remember my dad's photography studio. You can pull it back now, Daryl. My dad's photography studio, Salisbury Photography, was in the yellow pages. Aww. And so, I'll probably be the only person that's going to use a desk phone in this office, but it's a throwback to decades ago. And we're really excited to be in this office space. We got, like I said, we got a long ways to go here. We definitely need a lot of stuff, but my old saying in our family is do what you can with what you have. And we're thankful to have this, and we'll probably reaching out to the community, see how we can crowdsource some stuff over here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always exciting. Feels very fresh and new, and also just new beginnings too. I always love that because you can see that we have so many possibilities in this new space. Man, I'm excited.
Well, the best thing is that we'll be able to churn out way more production. We were up there on Capitol Hill in the Stout Building. So thankful to everybody there in the Stout Building. So thankful to everybody at Sunset Electric. And don't worry, but Bobby Steele's the postman, the master of everything. He has something very special in mind planned for the people over there in the Stout building who, man, for 2 months, you know, we were right there and were able to provide, I think, incredible coverage, especially of the protests and CHOP and everything else, because we were really right there on Pine Street. So thankful to everybody up there at the Stout building, everybody at Capitol Hill, the whole community that embraced us. And you know, we're just down the street, so we haven't moved away. You probably see a lot of our crew actually lives up there on the hill. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So there, you know, it's always another home away from home, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Treyana.
Yes.
There's some big. Well, first of all, let's get all the formalities out of the way. Man, how was your weekend?
You know what? Amazing.
It was an extended weekend for you because guess what? Young O filled in for you yesterday.
You did it. He said he was ready, man. I'm glad you guys got him out here on the set, man. He said he was ready to hop in there.
Yeah, no, he hopped in and did a good job. But how'd it go for you?
It was really good. You know what I mean? Some of us in the King County Equity Now planning team were able to really retreat after we've been doing kind of event after event every 2 weeks for the last 10 weeks, very much like Converge on the front lines, just kind of planning and really getting education out there to the community. So it was really great to connect with all those young organizers and, you know, strategize for next steps. Really exciting.
Good stuff. Also, let our viewers know we're keeping an eye on City Hall right now. You know, it's one thing I told Daryl for sure is I said, my friend, they might say 11 a.m., but I've never seen a presser down there start on time. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and we'll see if we can get a glimpse of Chief Best. And speaking of Chief Best, this is the biggest headline in the city right now. The resignation, I guess it's going to be formal here in a matter of minutes, but the resignation of Chief Carmen Best. And it turns out that it looks like yesterday's interview with Chief Best very well might have been her last interview as the TV interview as the active chief.
Wow, what breaking news. I mean, we knew that, you know, a lot of this kind of unrest and people out in the streets, it was going to start to trickle into these institutions. But it'll be exciting to see how the police kind of shape up after this.
Well, exciting. I mean, yeah, that's one word for it, especially if they're going to reduce the pay of a police chief. You know, you get what you pay for.
That's very true.
No matter what. Some of the big things that people talked about, community last night on Twitter, last night, even early this morning, I went on Cairo radio this morning with Dave Ross and with Hannah. And there's a sentiment in the community, in our community, the black community, of people who really feel that the city council slighted Chief Best in the fact that they never met with this black woman. Yeah. And then also that they went after her pay, to downgrade her pay. People who've been following me right here and us right here at Converge from day one of the things that I've always said is we don't have to agree, but we need to make a commitment to understand. And it appears that the city council didn't make any type of outreach to Chief Best. And there's so many different dynamics, and it's an added dynamic for us because we're black, from the black community. So I wanted to get your thoughts this morning on the city council's actions in regards to their communication or lack thereof with Chief Best, and then actually going after her pay.
Well, I'll be honest, you know, for me, I always come from this kind of community perspective. And one of the things that I feel builds community the most is relationship. So again, if you can have relationship amongst these entities and these different offices and administrations, that's where you see that people extend that olive branch. They're like, wait a minute, I got that relationship with, you know, Chief Carmen Best. Let me reach out to her. But what we're seeing a lot is that a lot of our entities in Seattle, unfortunately, work in silos, man. And this silo effect is not really good for the people ultimately, and it's not good for institutions. I think they need to do more in regards to building those relationships amongst entities in, you know, that are in authority.
I think that it's interesting that I bet you, might be wrong, but I bet you if you go back through the city council's Twitter or social media, I bet you the day that Congressman John Lewis passed away, I bet you they honored John Lewis. They said something about him. But the thing is, one of the examples John Lewis said is he was the conscience of the Congress. Yeah. He would go over there, talk to the Republican. Everybody knew they could talk to John Lewis, whether they agreed or didn't agree, you know. And I think that I don't. My issue here this morning isn't defund or not defund.
Right.
Let's put that on the shelf for now. My issue this morning is, what example is our city council setting when they're saying that they won't talk to people? And then you put the extra layer on top of it, and they won't talk to this black woman. And to be honest with you, there might be somebody in the mayor's office, but I think the chief of police and the fire chief Scoggins, although they're appointed, those are probably two of the highest ranking black people in city government in Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, what you're describing here is so true. And we're seeing this where politics are becoming kind of people's religion, right? It's like the thing that they stand on. And unfortunately, a lot of politics is polarizing.
Okay, so we're going to pull up the chief right now.
Oh, good.
Okay, so Daryl's. I like that. You hit it right. He said politics is becoming people's religion these days.
Yeah, and it's literally making our country even more polarizing. Is all I'm saying. We're seeing this play out a lot right now in the ways of civil unrest and these protests. We're seeing that it's like, hey, if I'm not for all the way 100% defund, then all of a sudden I'm on the right wing. I'm a right winger or something. And I think that there's a lot of splintering effects that attacking people for their beliefs is not the right way to do this. I think that we really need to be thinking about what's best for the people, what's best for our country. And I think that that's really what the Equity Now and all these kinds of campaigns are really trying to do. It's about pushing for something that's best for the people. I
think that conversation never hurt anybody.
Right.
And you know, I think we're an example of that. We've talked to everybody.
Yeah.
There's very few media outlets here that can say that they've talked to everybody from, I've talked to Dow Constantine, talked to the mayor, the fire chief, the police chief, SDOT, SPU.
Right.
I've talked to Parks. I've talked to quite a few different city council members, either on interview or over the phone. I've talked to countless protesters. I've talked to community organizations like King County Equity Now, Black Community Voices, Seattle United, Engaged. I've talked to everybody. Do I agree with all of their ideology and everything? No, of course not. But that doesn't stop from having a conversation. And I think what the city council really did, though, is they sold themselves short on an opportunity to go back to their constituents and say, hey, I met with these people, talk to them. I don't agree with them. This is why I'm going to do, you know, X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
And there is civility, I think, is leaving in City Hall in Seattle. The civility.
And I think you're so right. I mean, Converge has been a great example of that. And literally anybody who hasn't been here, you've still extended that invitation to
We're
them.
going up on the audio on the chief now?
All right,
okay.
Leadership and the leadership team doesn't matter, but I know better. I know this team will keep the department moving forward as it re-envisions public and community safety. And I'm grateful to Deputy Chief Adrian Diaz agreeing to serve as the interim chief of police. I know he will continue the department's commitment to engaging the community. He knows this department and he knows the city. I have seen firsthand his tireless commitment to the Seattle Police Department and the people, especially the young people of our city. He is more than ready for this challenge. And to the community, thank you. You helped me get to where I am. I think so many of you have just been wonderful, and I appreciate you just like family, and I will continue to. I have an ask of our community. I am one part of the department. If you support me, you support this department. I know out of this challenge will spring new hope for a better future for all. I trust that everyone, residents, business owners, and elected officials will find a way to work together to put aside personal conflicts, political grandstanding, and power plays. Seattle has the best and the brightest. If we work together to overcome our challenges, if we listen to one another, not just those we agree with, by the way, if we value experience, equally to passion. I know we can create solutions that will carry Seattle through this decade and into the future, leading the way for the entire country. And now I'm going to scare Amy because I'm going off script and just and just say first I want to thank my family who supported me all the way, all the time. To the pastors who are here, thank you. You have been wonderful. Your support has been amazing. Pastor Ransford, if you don't remember him, he's the one that said, Chief Best is the best. I love that. I absolutely love that. I was cracking up. That was very funny. Reverend Walden, I really cannot even find words to thank you for your continued support. You have been just wonderful. I feel like words are not going to be able to express the depth. If you cry, I'm going to cry, so I can't even look at you. The depth of my appreciation. Your heart is gold, and I just thank you so very much. I also want to thank Tricia, who is my executive assistant, who has helped me through everything. She knows more about me than my husband. She knows it all, the credit cards, the bank accounts, she knows where everything's in. She has been amazing and wonderful. And to all of the other department heads who are here, you people have been absolutely the best. I've talked to each and every one of you on different occasions. They sent me emails and letters and been so supportive. I didn't even expect to see you here today, and I can't tell you how overwhelmed and how grateful I am that you showed up for little old me. It's very, very much appreciated. And I just want to thank everybody. This has been really the job of a lifetime. Tamu, I forgot about you there, one of our community members who came in and who's helped me immensely to learn the culture of our East African communities, how to better connect because it was so important, and just so many of you. I could go on for hours and hours, but I just want to say that I'm sad to leave in some ways, but you know, when it's time, it's time. I look forward to handing that torch over to Adrian Diaz. But for now, Mayor Durkin.
Note to file, never follow the chief. You know, we're facing unprecedented challenges.
So here, there was the chief right there. What are your thoughts, Tran? I know you were on the road, your resort, or vacation, whatever you want to call it, your spiritual healing. And all of this is news to you this morning, so it's all hitting you at the same time. All of us news junkies, we were on this story late last night and early this morning, so this is literally news to you right now. I didn't realize that you guys came literally off the road and right here to the studio.
Yes, literally. So that's why I'm asking you questions while it's going on, because again, I understand there's been a lot of developments, obviously, over the last couple of months. There's been a lot of chatter out there in the community, a lot of protests, a lot of unrest. I wasn't, understanding that the city council would do something. It feels just like a personal attack towards Chief Carmen Best. And I don't think that even the defund movement, I don't think the defund movement was saying get rid of Chief Best. So it's just, for me, this is a bit of a conundrum.
Well, I mean, people watch this show a lot of times to get insight from Black community. And of course, no one news network speaks for the Black community. We got we have a diversity in news. You got us, you got Rainier Avenue Radio, you got the Z Twins, KRIZ, KZIZ, the Medium newspaper, the Facts newspaper, Emerald, the South Seattle Emerald. So no one news source can say they speak for all Black people.
Right.
But I will ask you this, as a Black woman, Central District, Garfield High School, a mother and everything else, like I said, taking the politics of defund away and taking a lot of politics around police and policing itself. Believe me, I know. I've felt it literally firsthand. But when we just talk about the interaction, and this is, I think, what a lot of people don't do. They don't get granular in these conversations. People are painting with a broad brush.
Yeah.
there's no black people on the city council for the first time in a very long time when Bruce Harrell stepped down. And laying that out there, a black woman from the CD, went to Garfield, a mother. How does city council's interaction with Chief Best, just as from one department to another, how does that play with you?
Again, I don't think that they did enough at all in terms of even trying to build the relationship possibly, or literally getting to that place. If what was coming out was that they thought, look, she's the one doing wrong and we need to go after her for some odd reason, like, it's not always about leadership. And I just think that they really did a disservice to, showcasing how to do something in the new normal. And again, it's like pinpointed attacks feel like very much old normal to me. That's what it feels like to me. And as a black woman, to be honest, I was excited that Chief Carmen Best got that job. I know that the community, went for her. They wanted her in that position. And so this is a bit alarming to me, right? And it's also the way that they went about this. It just feels like a personal attack. It feels old normal to me. And unfortunately, they had an opportunity to step out, be innovative, and really showcase to their city how they build relationships across the board,
Right. It'd be interesting to talk to Frank Barrow over there at KRIZ, Community Potpourri. Is that his show? The morning show with Frank, and see what the feedback is getting over there. On the radio, people calling on the radio from the CD and from the South End. Yeah. And one of the things people talk about is, if this was a white chief, would it have played out like this? If this was a white chief, would they have not talked to the chief? If this was a white chief, would they have gone on the pay after the pay? Like I said, putting the issues aside here, this is just how one branch, and I know someone's going to correct me, they always do, but one arm, appendage of government, city council, the legislative, and the chief falls under the executive, under the mayor. But it's how these two branches come together. And when we interviewed Lorena Gonzalez, and I'm paraphrasing here, we could pull it out on Twitter, and we asked her, it was like, well, man, how come you guys aren't talking to the chief? She was like, well, the chief works for the mayor. I'll talk to the mayor. We'll pull that out. And so it's very interesting here in Seattle, because Seattle very much is a city where there's no black people on the city council. I'm sure that the public will correct me, but even if you go into the county, you've got one King County councilman, Councilmember Girmay Zahalai, who represents District, I want to say 7 on the King County Council, either District 2. And then you have Eric Pettigrew, right, who is in the state legislature, the 37th seat, number 2. There might be a few others. That's all that comes to mind for me, that who's in office. And I think that being the case, the city council probably now more than ever needs to be listening and understanding as many black voices as possible.
I think you're so right about that. Oh, and this is something, literally just last week I had a discussion about this, about the void of black voices in city council, about the void of black voices in positions of authority in our government here in Seattle in particular. And I think that, this is why a lot of us, we need to get into that fight. So much of it is about educating our young people to understand why these positions are so important and how you get your voices heard on the other side. When people are in those boardrooms making decisions and they have those large budgets and they're, divvying out the budget, you want someone who understands the issues in your community that can speak to that at that table. And I think it's really important to, literally connect the dots for folks. But you are literally mentioning something that is so valuable to the black community. It is something we need to rally around, because it's not right that there's no black voices at these tables.
Well, I got on Twitter this morning because I'm just interested. And not even to be antagonistic, I'm interested and want to know who the city council is talking to. And we challenged the mayor, the same thing. I challenged the mayor. On the press conference, I was like, man, who are you talking to? Yeah. She sent us a list. It was 4 pages long. We put it out on Twitter. We asked Chief Best, who have you been meeting with? Yesterday, we interviewed her. Yesterday, they sent us the list. And so for the city council, I'm interested to know, who are you talking to? You know, I mean, clearly you guys have made your actions here and everything else. And I mean, it is what it is. The chief has now done her press conference. She has resigned. Okay. But now my question is because we talk about the big three, and we'll talk about this more with Isaac Joy from King County Equity now. There's way more than three, but the big three that kind of stick out in my head are when you look at that economic, the income gap. Black people, a black household making $42,500 a year in the city of Seattle, white household $105,000. It's a very big gap. We talk about black home ownership, which builds generational wealth. And we see the constant decline in black home ownership across Seattle and King County, mostly due to gentrification. People just, you know, I mean, these things are there. And the other thing is great schools, the awesome schools. And so I'm really wanting to see everybody. We put a lot of noise around defund. The council has voted. The people have spoken. The chief has resigned. What I want to know from the city council is, what is your plan around economic disparity? What is your plan about home ownership and developing generational wealth? And what is your plan about building awesome schools in the city of Seattle? Because those are systemic changes that become sustainable and change the trajectory of people. When people own homes, they're passing wealth on to their children. When their children are well educated, they're able to go on. And another reason why there's this income gap is because there's an education gap. And our kids they're failing in the Seattle public schools, and so they're not getting out and getting these jobs at Amazon that's paying $160,000 a year or this and that and everything else. They're missing that mark. All of these things are intertwined. And imagine if you get one of those good jobs, you come back and buy a house, and you start feeding that cycle that actually uplifts people. That's the cycle that's uplifting people. And I'm just curious, this is why I want to know who the city council is talking to. I want to see how broad the discussion is. And I know there's organizations, King County Equity Now, which you and part of Isaac Joy is a part of. I know there's Decrime Seattle. I know that there's the protesters like Everyday March, and there's Black Collective Voices. Not knocking anybody. I want to know though who else, because these are all you guys are very high profile. You know, are they walking? The other thing, are they walking these districts? I know it's Zoom, but the other thing here is the districts. Because Seattle's in districts, nobody has any skin in the game except Sawan.
Yeah.
Because the central district, that's your district, and I guess the south end is what, District 2. So if this was citywide, everybody would have to know something about the CD. They'd have to, well, you know, you're gonna go over here, I can eat over there, I'm here, I'm seeing everything, because they know that they have to be able to carry votes citywide. And so also what I want to know for people who are in all the other districts that don't really have black people, I mean, how are you gauging the conversation over there?
That is such a great question. You know, that is my thing. I think that what I had personally have been able to witness and be a part of a little bit is kind of bringing education to some of those communities, right? Because there are certain people in those communities who are like, wait a minute, my community is not at all engaged in this. They have no skin in this game, but they should, right? And so people are like, wait a minute, you guys should be educated. I think that that's happening, but you are so right to call out who is city council talking to, because there's a lot of conversations that are happening in the community. And how is the council actually benefiting from that discourse, right? Because again, these are their constituents. I mean, literally, these are the people that they're representing.
I mean, also in our community, there's a high number of elders who aren't on social media, right, or who just, they don't get down in the political scene. They're there to see the grandkids and things like that. I mean, who's talking to them? Who's talking to the small business owners? I mean, has somebody went out there and talked to Theo at Island Soul? Somebody sat down with the deaf chef?
I think you're asking seriously what's up with their community engagement in general, and how are they actually broadening their discussion to understand all of these perspectives that are out here.
Right, because public comment is not community engagement.
Right.
So opening it up for public comment is, you can't be confused for actual public engagement, engaging with the public. And so I want to see how broad the council member's portfolio of blackness is. You never know. They might be like, well, man, I talked to Earl.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I went over there to the Central Cafe. You know, I hit up Ted over there. He was a principal at Garfield. I talked to him. You never know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They might be on it, taking it all the way out there to Henderson. You know what I'm saying? They might be on it. If that's the case, let us know. Let us know if you're checking in with everybody, if you're hitting all the blocks, if you're talking to everybody in the CD, because yes, there's the coalitions, and I'm not knocking the coalition. The coalitions are doing their things on all kinds of different levels.
Yeah.
You know, but there's still a lot of people who can't be in the streets, who necessarily are in a coalition or this and that. Their voice is valid. Is Ruby Holland in a coalition?
Right, exactly.
Ruby Holland's a very important voice in our community around gentrification. Have you guys talked to Ruby Holland?
Right.
You know, about MHA and all these things that impact our elders in the community. So we've put it out there to the city council, and I will say that the other branch, the executive branch, when we asked the executive branch, the mayor, and also the chief of police, who they've been talking to, they got back to us the same day. So city council members, we want to know, who are you talking to that's driving your black agenda? Let us know. It could be 10 pages. I'll be happy to see that, you know, and I'll be like, hey, this person, they're doing their thing. Could be 1 page.
Right.
But let's see what happens.
Right. That's a great one, man. It's good. We need to follow up with that again. Let's follow the paperwork on that.
Yeah, let's follow the paperwork. Who you talking to? Hey, we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we have Isaac Joy from King County Equity Now. You are watching the Morning Update Show, day 1 from the new studios. We'll be right back.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim? Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready. Be hydrated.
Do you want to represent your city? Now you can. The City of Seattle's Democracy Voucher Program is now open. Candidates interested in using democracy vouchers to help finance their campaign for 2021 may begin qualifying now. In 2021, the mayor, city attorney, and the 2 city council at-large positions will be on the ballot. The Democracy Voucher Program has $6.8 million available for local candidates to fund their campaigns. Running a competitive campaign can be costly, and access to funding can serve as a barrier to entry for potential candidates. The Seattle Ethics and Elections Commission is offering one-on-one trainings for potential candidates who want to explore how to access the democracy vouchers. Interested candidates can contact the Democracy Voucher Program at 206-727-8855 or email democracyvoucher@seattle.gov. For more information, you can also visit seattle.gov/democracyvoucher.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Omari Salisbury. The whip is over there telling me that the comments are heating up. Well, that's that's good, though. I mean, it's glad that people are commenting, because either way, that means they care about this topic and they care about what's going on right now in the city. Very happy to welcome Mr. Isaac Joy from King County Equity Now. Isaac, what's up? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see the new digs. You guys are doing big things here.
Hey, man. Well, first of all, thank you, and I appreciate it. I think you're one of the people who've seen our journey up close and personal. We got a ways to go here. We gotta figure out a way to actually kit it out, but we're gonna take it one step at a time. Man, let's get right into it, Isaac. I know we want to talk about King County equity now. This is one of the bigger groups whose agenda is out there. Big marches, all kinds of different events going on. So we'll get into that. Of course, the big pressing news today, it's everywhere, the resignation of Chief Best today. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every morning, with regards to these protests, I try to remind myself why these protests started. And for me, these protests started to combat anti-Black racism, particularly as it manifested through police violence. So for me, I kind of measure success or failure in terms of how is it moving the on-the-ground conditions of Black people, which I was really excited to hear kind of you speak to, income inequality, schools, education, et cetera. So for me, I read, that's kind of my lens for evaluating things. And with regards to Chief Best, you know, the Seattle Police Department has a storied history of anti-Black racial violence. I've seen interviews with yourself where I believe you've actually experienced that. And unfortunately, but predictably, that violence, that anti-Black racial violence did not relent under Chief Best. And that's because the task to root out anti-Black racism from the Seattle Police Department is too large for any one person. So for me, the Chief Best resignation, I guess the only other thing I will say in terms of revealing people's interests or people's true intentions, if folks are feeling frustration about Chief Best's resignation, but they're not voicing frustration about Charlene Lyles, if they're not voicing frustration about the fact that the Black community is facing an economic cliff right now, that they're about that they're about to fall off with COVID, that COVID is impacting the Black community with disproportionate impacts, that the economic fallout from COVID and this greatest depression is about to just wipe out the Black community. And so folks, if I don't hear folks as equally invested in those issues, because there's been a lot of commotion, you know.
Well, there's definitely a lot of bandwagoners on the issue, and we've seen that. We've seen people just run with Lorenzo Anderson's name, you know, and couldn't tell you any other Black person that's been killed in the city of Seattle. And there's a lot of people that are jumping on this way, could care less about a blackness or Black women or Black anything. You say, oh, it's the Black chief. So there is definitely a segment that's out there that can even care less that this is a Black woman or anything else, but they're throwing it out there because it's feeding their narrative. And so I would agree with you, and we've seen that all over the place the last 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think for me, you know, anti-Black racism manifests in a lot of ways. And I would say, you know, when Obama was president, for example, conservatives said, deficit, you know, don't spend too much, we gotta keep a tight budget. So you would assume that that's the issue that they're actually concerned about. But then we get to a new president and he's just spending money left and right. We have the biggest deficit that we've had in a long time, and it's crickets. And so for me, that reveals what are you really interested about? Are you concerned about the deficit, or are you concerned we have a Black president? And so I think, yeah, there is a lot of that where you're having folks jump in now, feeling frustration that the first Black woman police chief, which is significant, is resigning, and I think that's an important point to resignation.
Let me ask you this though. Put in all or it's possible to put it to the side. What are your thoughts about City Council's interaction with the chief, or lack of interaction with the chief, and then going after the chief's pay and things like that? Considering that they've also set a precedent. They're saying that they don't have to talk to whoever. I mean, today it's the police chief, but what are your thoughts on that?
From my very humble perspective, that is a lot of political posturing. I feel like there's been, so even getting insight into kind of somehow this legislative process works, there are so many conversations happening. It's not just city council members, it's their legislative aides. There's a whole networking ecosystem in Seattle of folks that are doing, and trust me, it's a very small pool of people, and all of the conversations are, I would imagine, are happening. That said, though, I don't want to undermine the serious issue. Anti-Black racism manifests everywhere, and absolutely, I'm sure City Council has a lot to do to rectify that anti-Black racism, and I'm right with you, because they're doing all this smoke and mirrors,
Right.
but what's actually happening in the Black community? We have all this effort, what's actually happening? And so we need to ensure that the Black community is moving forward. And so, yeah, I'm as interested in, as you, in ensuring that our city council, is not dealing in anti-Black racism. But for me, that's more than just, that's greater than potentially, the types of conversations that were happening.
Right. And so when we talk about let me take a step back. Even though King County Equity Now has been on quite a few shows over the last few months, you might want to summarize what are the key issues that King County Equity Now and as a whole, and you as Isaac Joy, what are the burning issues, the key issues for you that you're the most passionate about, that you're trying to see some sort of actual systemic change?
Yeah, the key issues that I'm passionate about, I'm 31 years old, and during the course of my lifetime, I've seen very little improvement, if any, for the Black community. And so I'm passionate about it being 2020 and Black wealth being zero. I'm passionate about 300 years of promises, of failed policies, of failed solutions, with no real concern or sense of urgency for the Black community. So for me, as that translates right now, King County Equity Now is about designing a new normal rooted in equity. It's about following solutions that make tangible impact for the Black community in a realistic timeline, meaning now. Some of our emphasis in terms of demands are on land acquisition. I'm living a block from 29th and Jackson right now, your old stomping grounds.
Yeah, I grew up on 29th and Jackson. CD or see me, man.
So, you know how important it is for folks to have land, to have control of land. The fact that the Central District looks very different than when you live there, and that Black people are on a path to getting pushed out really entirely from Seattle. And so King County Equity Now is about equity, ownership, about improving the living conditions of the Black community, of BIPOC communities, through real solutions that impact their lives.
All right, so when we talk about this relationship here with the city now, this was way back in, I believe, June, when Mayor Durkin tweeted saying Fire Station 6 was gonna be moving over to Africatown, starting the process there. My understanding, do you guys have the keys yet? Not yet, right? And so this is, I reached out to the mayor's office yesterday. This is Kamaria Hightower. Said regarding mutually offsetting benefits, properties, everything is moving forward. The city recently provided Africatown with a draft lease for Fire Station 6 that is currently under consideration. They're participating in weekly meetings to ensure the process continues progressing. Last week, the Central Area Senior Center leadership and city officials, including the deputy mayor, Department of Neighborhoods, and Office of Planning, met to further negotiations. So they still negotiating over that, Triana, on the Central Area Senior Center. Huh? The city remains committed to transferring the property and hopes to transmit legislation to the council to complete the transfer as soon as possible. So it's saying a lot, but there's no hard timelines over there. Do you know? I know you work closely with Africatown. Do you know if this lease process that the mayor's office is saying is underway is actually ongoing?
I believe elements of that were true. It's my understanding that a draft lease was provided to Africatown for review and potential revision. But yes, no, keys have not been transferred over. That site has not been activated. Again, we hear time and time again the reasons why things can't move forward. It's 2020, Black wealth is zero. There's very little property that's owned in the Central District by Black people. We know that our communities are currently under fire. It's the biggest civil rights moment in, arguably America's history, and at least for a generation. And it takes that much pressure to transfer a building that's vacant, that's in the heart of the Central District, that's currently just a visual plight, to even try to transfer it over to a group that City Council's already approved. So again, to me, this process just highlights how strong anti-Black racism operates and how resistant folks are into trying to make progress.
I mean, okay, so you have Fire Station 6 sitting there, it's dormant. I think that the parking enforcement uses it every once in a while. Central Area Senior Center is where the elders are actually at. They're in the building there every day, and it says that they're negotiating, and it's been a start and stop process with the central now for years. It's a senior center. Our seniors are there. So, I mean, the mayor's office didn't put a hard timeline. Maybe they might want to set a date for themselves to be like, we want this to be completed by this date. I bring that up, and I'm asking you these questions about Fire Station 6 and the MOBs, the mutually offsetting benefits and things like that, to get an indication from you. When you talk about these changes that you're wanting to see, these changes that actually drive the Black community towards economic sustainability, how difficult or easy do you see this process happening? And even if it does occur and legislation happens, do you see it coming to fruition? A lot of things get passed and they just go and die.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like where we're at in kind of our history, where America's at in its history, that there's no choice. We have to deal with it. You know, my perspective, my theory is that, again, I know we keep saying anti-Black racism, but I want to hammer that anti-Black racism for me is the biggest threat to America.
So you keep saying, once you give our viewers, and you've been on here a few times,
Sure.
so you say anti-Black racism, but there's a lot of new people who might be watching.
Sure.
Once you give your explanation of what exactly you mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So anti-Black racism is basically a theory that was created and developed to justify the transatlantic slave trade. So if you imagine that basically the transatlantic slave trade was all of America's wealth for a long period of time, really the 19th century. And so if you had a economic trade that was at direct odds with what you say you're about. If I say my favorite color is black, and then every day I wear, all pink or something, and it's at odds, I have to create something to make sense of that. And that's where anti-Black racism came into play. It was basically, we had a country that was focused on individual freedoms, liberty and justice for all, et cetera, carving a new way, and at the same time enslaving people. And so those were at direct odds. And the only way that you can reconcile it is you had to create a theory that justified it. And that's why anti-Black racism is so large in our country. I mean, we had crowds of 20,000 people that would come out to lynchings, that would cheer with the little babies and kids. I mean, I'm talking with folks right now. We have racial restrictions and covenants that still exist that are in deeds.
It's a lot of covenants. People don't realize city of Seattle is a lot of covenants here. And some of these old houses, you look at your deeds and it says no Negroes allowed. 100%.
Completely. And so it's really baked into our country. And so if you look at the way it's been activated, anti-Black racism gets weaponized by those that are in power. And what I mean by that, real simply, is if you just look at Trump. Trump right now, because we have Trump in president, we have an attorney general that basically lets people out of prison that are Trump's friends, that does the president's bidding. We had federal military inside cities clashing with civilians. This is type of stuff that you see in banana republics. This is a crazy place and time for our country. People are actually asking, is Trump going to peacefully transfer over power if he doesn't get elected? That's the state we're in. And to me, we are here precisely because Trump got elected through weaponizing anti-Black racism. He got his base, folks reacted from Obama, folks reacted, and he weaponized that. And because that's weaponized, now our country is at the point where we're looking down the barrel at potentially an authoritarian regime. And so to get back to your question of how hard is this stuff to deal, it is very difficult because this stuff is entrenched in our society. But I think this point proves, one, on the ground through this unrest, people are tired of this stuff. Like, I'm watching interviews of you with your mom about the getting, beat by police. That stuff resonates. I know it's the same story over and over again. People are getting tired of it. They're saying we're not about this anymore. And then on the right, I think you have folks that are seeing a demographic shift, and so they're pushing their issue. And so for me, this is at a really critical time in American history where, we buried a lot of things and tried not to deal with it for a long time, but now we're at the point where we don't really have a choice.
What exactly, if you were to bullet point it, what exactly should the city council be trying to look at? I mean, you can not trying to go super detailed, but what are the top things? City council, the mayor. What can the city of Seattle do if this is this moment in time that we're in, where people are like, okay, what can we do to make the lives for black people in our city better and put them on a sustainable trajectory so we're not here again in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What exactly needs to happen?
I feel what it often comes down to in the great country of America, USA, a lot of it comes down to resources. Put simply, from my vantage point, the best way to solve anti-black racism is resource reallocation. We have a chasm in terms of resources right now that you cannot overcome. The economy right now, the people that are able to take advantage of it were set up that from their parents or from the situations, from the settings. Long-winded way of saying basically that it's hard, you can't get ahead unless we solve for this large chasm of inequality, and that's resource allocation. So one of the things that City Council can do is they can endorse the participatory budget process that's already underway, that's being led by the black community largely to serve their community. I think it's time for City Council to follow the lead of black people, the black community, to hand over the reins so that they can solve their own issues and give them the resources to do that. I think City Council should look at all the proposals in any sort of jurisdiction that they have authority where they can transfer underutilized public land or just public land to the black community. I think they should do that immediately. I think the Kiro site on 16th and Yesler, which is a huge opportunity in our city, that building can immediately be activated for housing insecure and shelter services, as well as housing 10 to 15, 20 black-led community-based organizations under one roof. So we could have the Nikitas, the Jarrells, the White Kings, the Treyanas, all under in one building. And I'm sure, as you know, that can be very difficult getting folks. So I think that is a huge project that could have generational impacts on the black community. And I would encourage City Council and other folks to find ways to make that happen.
All right, Isaac Joy, King County Equity Now. Let people know how they can keep up with you.
Yeah, follow us at King County Equity Now on Instagram, KC Equity Now on Twitter. Follow us on KingCountyEquityNow.com. We're about to roll out some new websites. We have some active campaigns. We got a lot of events. We're a cool community, so definitely check us out.
All right. Thank you, Isaac. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, my very talented and amazing and wonderful co-host, Treyana Holiday, returns. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim? Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready, be hydrated.
Do you want to represent your city? Now you can. The City of Seattle's Democracy Voucher program is now open. Candidates interested in using democracy vouchers to help finance their campaign for 2021 may begin qualifying now. In 2021, the mayor, city attorney, and the 2 city council at-large positions will be on the ballot. The Democracy Voucher program has $6.8 million available for local candidates to fund their campaigns. Running a competitive campaign can be costly, and access to funding can serve as a barrier to entry for potential candidates. The Seattle Ethics and Elections Commission is offering one-on-one trainings for potential candidates who want to explore how to access the Democracy Vouchers. Interested candidates can contact the Democracy Voucher Program at 206-727-8855 or email democracyvoucher@seattle.gov. For more information, you can also visit seattle.gov/democracyvoucher.
Well, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Your co-host, Trey Holiday. That was a great segment right there, oh.
Yeah, Isaac Joy, King County Equity Now, always has a lot of insight around that coalition. And like I said, I think that there are a number of different groups that are out there. Voices are being heard, whether it's in Zoom kind of conversations or whether it's on the streets and meeting with council members. But for me, I think considering what's at stake, because everybody said this is the moment. We sit out there for 2 months. This is the moment that's supposed to change everything for Black people in Seattle, or at least start the trajectory. I think it's only fair for all the citizens, we the people, to really know in totality who and what is crafting what the city council is pushing. You might very well find out that there's another group that's Black that's totally opposite to everything King County Equity Now is talking about. You'll be shocked. You'll be like, what? You see what I'm saying? I mean, you never know. I mean, because politicians are really good, and a lot of people think that they have the politician's ear, but you come to find out politicians got like 30, 40 years. There's one over here, one on the elbow. So, some of them have no ears and too many mouths. But we just want to know who they're talking to. Like I said, the mayor let us know who she's been talking to, and the police chief let us know who she's been talking to. So it'll be interesting to be able to figure that out. But it's always good to be able to hear from like King County Equity Now. And tomorrow we have Nikita Oliver. She's talking about some of her community organizing and everything else, and get her insight as to how this process is moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the great things about Seattle is that there's a lot of players really on the ground doing work. There's a lot of folks. I mean, when we talk about, and this is what I love about working here at Converge, is because we get to see a lot of those players. We're talking to everybody, and I'm telling you, like I was saying before we went to the coverage earlier, is even the folks you haven't talked to, it's not that they haven't gotten an invitation. You have literally extended an invitation to everyone. So Jay Inslee, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Jay Inslee, come on. We're ready for you, baby.
The gov's about the only one. And I mean, that's the thing is it me personally? I mean, I feel two things here. One, me personally, I just really want to know what people are talking about. Right. I want to know what people are thinking, especially if they're thinking something different than me. And two, we owe it to our neighborhood, and this is who we broadcast to. This is who we're out here for. We owe it to the Black community in Seattle, the Central District, the South End, for us to be able to talk to as many people and get as much insight, because we're the eyes and ears of our community.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I loved so much about joining this team was because that was the goal. The goal was, look, a lot of the times Black community is not informed or misinformed or not talked to or not thought about, right? Or the perspective is not on major media. So again, I think that is always at the heart of what we do. And I love that so much about this platform. But again, I think when you were asking about so many, Seattle is unique in that way where there's so many many people on the ground doing amazing work. And I have learned so much in the last couple of months, just getting to know folks. Again, extending that olive branch, talking to people from the other side, getting people to understand why we even went to the police budget, right? And because people are like, well, why was that the first thing, right? And it's like, just having those discussions and getting people to even just understand you a little bit, it's so rewarding.
You know what? Let's do that tomorrow. In the morning, because I think that people would want to know why did organizations like King County Equity Now, which you're a part of, go for the police budget? I mean, nobody has actually ever explained that directly. Maybe they have on the shows, but either way, it'd be good for a refresher. Yeah. Like I said, we want to be able to inform everybody. We're gonna get ready to get out of here. Like I said, this was day one here in the new studio. Trina, we got to give this production people a hand. They got here early.
Guys. Great job, team.
They got here early, and we see even calligraphy's out here today as well. We got a long ways to go before the new studio feels like home. Appreciate everybody's support. Appreciate your donations. This is how we operate. Really, is off the kindness and of the viewing public, and donations and everything like that. I know we'll be reaching back out to you when we figure out how much this is all going to cost. But once again, appreciate your support. Yeah, I think it's about that time.
It sure is.
First time in the new studio.
Yeah, let's do it.
First time in the new studio. Big programming note. Today at 4 o'clock, we're gonna have a special where Marcus Harrison Green from the South Seattle Emerald, Tony B from Rainier Avenue Radio. We're gonna see if Triana will be able to fit it in her schedule, and we're gonna be talking from a media perspective, from Black media. We're going to be talking about the events that have been going on here for the last 2 months and in the last 24 hours. So that's 4 o'clock. Wherever you're watching this stream right here, you'll be able to watch that. A Black media perspective of Seattle protests. Any last words?
No, enjoy the day. I'm excited for the day. The sun is peeking out a little bit.
Make the most of it.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day.